Carl Rogers, a renowned psychologist, once remarked, "The greatest gift we can give someone is the purity of our attention." This purity of attention, this undiluted focus on another person's feelings and experiences, is at the heart of validation. Validation is more than just a nod or a sympathetic smile. It's a profound acknowledgement of someone's emotions, experiences, and perspective. It's the process of making someone feel seen, heard, and understood. Whether it's a simple, "I understand how you're feeling," or a more nuanced acknowledgement of someone's unique struggles, validation can be a powerful tool for connection and empathy. But let's take a moment to consider an often overlooked demographic when it comes to emotional validation: men. Society often paints a picture of men as stoic, strong, and unemotional. This stereotype can lead to a culture where men's emotional needs are overlooked, their feelings dismissed, their experiences invalidated. Men, just like anyone else, grapple with a wide range of emotions and experiences. They feel joy and sadness, excitement and disappointment, love and heartbreak. Yet these emotions are often met with silence, with a lack of understanding, with a dismissal of their validity. This lack of validation can have profound effects. It can lead to feelings of isolation, to the belief that one's emotions are invalid or unimportant, to a stifling of emotional expression. It can create a society where men feel unseen, unheard, and misunderstood. But what if we were to shift this narrative? What if we were to recognize the power of validation, the impact it can have on a person's emotional well-being? What if we were to acknowledge that men, like anyone else, crave the understanding, the empathy, the acknowledgement that comes with validation? As we delve deeper into this topic, remember, everyone craves validation. Everyone wants to feel seen, heard, and understood. It's not just about acknowledging emotions. It's about acknowledging the human behind these emotions. It's about giving the greatest gift we can give someone, the purity of our attention. The human brain craves validation, an affirmation that our feelings and experiences are real and matter. From the moment we're born, we seek validation, a response from our environment that echoes back our existence. Infants cry for attention, toddlers display their achievements with a proud, "Look at me," and adults, too, yearn for this acknowledgement, though it often takes subtler forms. But why is validation so crucial? Here's where the insight from psychologists and neuroscientists comes into play. When we receive validation, our brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with feelings of reward and satisfaction. This creates a positive feedback loop, where validation leads to pleasure, reinforcing the behavior or emotion that led to that validation. This process is not just gratifying, it's essential to our mental and emotional well-being. Consider self-esteem, a construct largely built on validation. When our thoughts, feelings, or actions are affirmed by others, it bolsters our self-worth. We feel seen, heard, and valued. This validation from external sources eventually internalizes, contributing to a robust sense of self-esteem. But what happens when validation is absent? It's like trying to see your reflection in a mirror that doesn't reflect. Without validation, our emotional reality can feel distorted, leading to self-doubt, and even mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. Validation is also a cornerstone of empathy, fostering connection and understanding between individuals. When we validate someone else's experience, we're essentially saying, "I see you, I hear you, your feelings are real and they matter." This recognition can be incredibly healing, bridging the gap between isolation and connection. So, does seeking validation make us dependent on others' approval? Not necessarily. It's about understanding and acknowledging our emotional reality, not seeking approval. It's about feeling seen in our authenticity, not molding ourselves to fit others' expectations. Validation doesn't mean agreement, but it does mean understanding. It's a fundamental aspect of our emotional health. And as we delve deeper into men's emotional landscapes, we'll see just how profound this need for validation truly is. For many men, the struggle for validation is a silent one, often hidden behind a mask of stoicism. The societal pressure to remain unexpressive, to suppress emotions, creates a silent struggle that is rarely seen but deeply felt. This is a battle fought in the solitude of men's minds, a quiet conflict between emotional needs and societal expectations. Let's consider the story of John, a successful business executive. John was taught from a young age to be strong, to show no weakness, to be a man. Despite his professional successes, he felt a void, an emotional hunger that couldn't be satiated with accolades or accomplishments. He yearned for validation, not for his achievements, but for his feelings, his vulnerabilities. Yet, he felt compelled to keep these desires hidden, buried beneath a facade of stoicism. Or take the case of Alex, a single father. Alex was expected to be the pillar of strength for his children, the unwavering rock in the storm. He felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, yet he couldn't express his fears, his insecurities. He was struggling silently, yearning for someone to acknowledge his fears, to validate his emotional struggles. But the societal script he was handed didn't allow for such expressions. These narratives are not isolated instances. They are a reflection of a larger societal issue, a cultural script that equates emotional expressiveness with weakness, that prescribes stoicism as the ideal masculine trait. This script, this narrative, has left many men grappling with their need for emotional validation, with their silent struggle. The silent struggle is real, but it doesn't have to be a life sentence. It's time to change the narrative. It's time to acknowledge the emotional needs of men, to validate their feelings, their struggles. It's time to create a space where men can express their emotions without fear of judgment or ridicule. Let's break the silence. Let's start the conversation. Let's validate the silent struggle. Because every man deserves to be heard, to be seen, to be validated. The silent struggle is real, but it doesn't have to be a life sentence. It's time to change the narrative. Validation is an art, a skill that can be learned and honed. It's the ability to recognize and affirm another person's feelings and experiences, and it's a crucial part of human connection. But how do we go about mastering this art? Let's delve into some practical tips and advice from psychologists and experts. First and foremost, the act of validation begins with active listening. This isn't just about hearing the words that are being said, but truly understanding the emotions behind them. It's about putting aside your own thoughts and judgments and focusing solely on the other person's perspective. It's about making them feel heard and understood. But active listening is just the first step. The next one is to acknowledge what you've heard, and that's where empathy comes in. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. It's about putting yourself in their shoes and seeing the world from their perspective. It's not about fixing their problems or offering solutions. It's about acknowledging their feelings and letting them know they're not alone. Next, it's important to remember that validation isn't about agreement. You can validate someone's feelings without necessarily agreeing with their perspective. It's about recognizing their feelings as valid and legitimate, even if you see things differently. Lastly, remember that your body language and tone of voice can also play a significant role in conveying validation. An empathetic tone and open body language can communicate that you're present, attentive, and open to their perspective. Each of these steps, active listening, empathy, non-agreement validation, and mindful body language, are integral components of the art of validation. They require practice and patience, but the rewards are immense. By recognizing and affirming another person's feelings and experiences, we're not just helping them feel heard and understood, we're also fostering deeper connections and building stronger relationships. And who knows? Maybe in the process we'll also learn a thing or two about ourselves. By mastering the art of validation, we can help create a more understanding and empathetic society. The path to a more empathetic society begins with understanding and validating the emotions of those around us. As we venture into this new era of emotional recognition, we have to envision the potential benefits of a society that validates men's emotions. Imagine a world where every man feels comfortable expressing his feelings without fear of judgment. This society would be one of emotional inclusivity, where men's mental health is prioritized, and their emotional experiences are acknowledged and respected. In this utopia, we would see a decrease in the rates of depression and suicide among men, as they would feel more supported and less isolated. Relationships would become stronger and more authentic, as men would feel free to express their emotions honestly. Workplace environments would also transform, becoming more balanced and conducive to emotional well-being. But how do we get there? How do we transform our society into one that validates men's emotions? The answer lies in education, open dialogue, and empathy. Education is paramount. From a young age, we need to teach our boys that it's okay to express their emotions, that feeling sad or scared doesn't make them less of a man. We need to dismantle the harmful stereotypes that associate masculinity with emotional stoicism. Open dialogue is equally important. We need to create safe spaces where men can share their experiences and emotions without fear of judgment or ridicule. We need to listen, really listen, to their stories and validate their experiences. And lastly, empathy. We need to foster a culture of empathy, where we put ourselves in others' shoes and try to understand their feelings and perspectives. We need to replace judgment with curiosity and indifference with compassion. So, let's ask ourselves, how might your life change if you felt completely seen, heard, and understood? Reflect on that as we continue this journey towards understanding and empathy. We all have a part to play in this transformation, and it starts with validating the emotions of the men in our lives.